Welcome to Spoken Love Podcast, where words don't just tell stories, they breathe them. Here we strip love and life down to the bone, unfolding our truths in rhythm and rhyme, through dialogue that's part poetry, part confession, and all real. So lean in, let the silence between the verses speak, and join me for a conversation wrapped in poetry. This is Spoken Love Podcast. Love, healing, faith, and becoming. Y'all, those are the major pillars of what we discussed in the past 3 seasons of Spoken Love Podcast, and I'm so happy that all of you have come along on this journey. For those that are new here, this is a bit of a teaser as I unpacked the different conversations we've had over the past seasons. And for my OGs, shout out to y'all for hanging in there. We went deep into some very tough topics and held ourselves accountable along the way. You see, over the past 3 seasons of Spoken Love Podcast, we've evolved from conversations about various types of relationships into a deeper journey of healing, identity, faith, and emotional maturity. And while each season explored different topics, one message remained completely consistent, and that was healthy love begins with a healthy relationship with yourself and God. In season 1, I had focused on understanding what love looks like in adulthood versus the romanticized versions many of us experienced growing up. In those episodes, I recall unpacking topics around grown love versus youthful love, communication and emotional availability. I think there was an episode on healthy relationship expectations. That episode did really well. Dating with intention and the importance of self-awareness. And the key lesson out of season 1 was love is more than chemistry. It requires character, communication, and emotional maturity. Then we pivoted into season 2 and did something a little bit different. Rather than focus solely on finding love, we explored the healing required to sustain it. In fact, season 2 was formatted in the form of an audiobook. I had written a book, unpublished, but I wanted to share my creative content with the world, and I used the podcast as my platform to do so. But the book is called When Heaven Waited, and I read through each of the different chapters for that particular book. So if you're interested in romantic fiction, loose fiction, because it's kind of based around some of my personal experiences, but definitely check out season 2 to experience When Heaven Waited. But the nature of that, the storyline, we talked about heartbreak and accepting heartbreak, emotional wounds and triggers, letting go of unhealthy attachments, and overall faith, healing, and enduring disappointment as we navigate the challenges of life. The lesson, I would say, for season 2 is probably around how unhealed wounds can show up in our relationships before they show up anywhere else. And healing isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming aware and doing something about it. And last but not least, we wrapped up season 3 a couple weeks ago. And season 3 challenged listeners to look deeper at the relationship between faith, self-worth, and emotional responsibility. Again, we unpacked what does unconditional love look like, the challenges of online dating with modern relationships, red flags versus discernment, softness versus survival, alignment in identity, and even an episode around motherhood and self-love. For season 3, we learned that not every relationship problem is a love problem. Sometimes it's a boundary, identity, or an alignment problem. I would say the common themes across all of the 3 seasons would be healing is your responsibility. There's no relationship can heal what only God, self-work, and intentional growth can address. Your partners can support healing, but they can't replace it. Secondly, I would say love should never cost you yourself. Whether you're discussing heartbreak, sacrifice, boundaries, or dating, one truth continues to resurface, and that is that healthy love requires compromise, but not self-abandonment. Another perspective I would say would be a common theme across all 3 seasons would be faith changes how we view relationships. Honestly, your identity and your purpose is very heavily rooted in your faith journey. And I would say throughout every season, I explored different types of relationship through faith-based lens. We weren't asking, how do I get chosen, but more asking, how do I become aligned, right? And then boundaries are an act of love. So boundaries aren't walls. That's the common misconception. But in reality, they're clarity. They teach people how to love and respect us while protecting our peace. And on the topic of boundaries, I feel like that's a good pivotal point into what's ahead in season 4. But to wrap things up across the I would say the last 3 seasons, the biggest lesson of all is that the journey to healthy love begins long before another person arrives. It begins with knowing who you are, healing what hurt you, establishing boundaries, trusting God's timing, and learning to love yourself as deeply as you desire to love someone else. So as we transition into season 4, the conversation naturally evolves into one of the most important relationship topics of all: boundaries. Not just in dating, but in your family dynamics, your friendships, your faith communities, in parenting, marriage, and even self-worth. Because love without boundaries often leads to burnout. But love with boundaries creates the freedom, peace, and safety needed for relationships to truly flourish. I'm so grateful. Thank you for being part of the Spoken Love journey. Here's to healing, growth, and becoming everything God has called you to be. Stay tuned for season 4, where faith, healing, and healthy love meets. And just like that, another chapter closes. But the story of love and life never really ends. If these words moved you, share them, carry them, live them out loud. Follow Spoken Love Podcast wherever you listen, and meet me here again, where the dialogue stays candid and the poetry stays alive.